Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville and you were on the lifeboat. So, sorry about that. So I'm bad at this YouTube thing, man. If you caught this morning's show, I let it run for a really long length of time before I thought I was talking to everybody and I didn't actually go live. Can I get a 5x5 so I don't do it again? Let's see something here. All right. Still don't see a 5x5, but I know I'm running at about a 30-second deficit in terms of, there we go, 7. Thank you, bud. 7th son, the most honest man in all of North America. Somebody put a Richard Mille watch on his wrist and forgot that he did and walked away. And there was Steve sporting a watch that would buy my house. In fact, it might even buy this house and the one in Arizona. Like really, really expensive watches. And he returned it to the man. It says an awful lot about the character of some of the people on the lifeboat. Chi-Chi, good to see you. People, if you're new to the lifeboat, Chi-Chi is one of the pillars, one of the original founders of the crew of the lifeboat. Chi-Chi, it's so good to see you. It really is. Chi-Chi was born on the exact same day in the exact same year as Lady Fiona Crispin. What are the odds of that? And the two of them meet and become the best of friends. I think that is so bizarre. But I love it. I really do. I love it. What are the odds? 1 in 365. Should do that before my brother writes it down because he's liable to. So I just sort of wanted to talk to everybody today. If you saw the thumbnail, it was different than the average. I didn't have a very serious message, so to speak. So I wanted to start with a couple of things. It's been my last week has been surreal, and it didn't stop after even after Lydia woke up. It's still just been surreal. And let me tell you about some of the things that have been happening. Number one, Lydia was very, very close to being married when she was working as a dental hygienist and had her life in order. She had a guy that she was very, very close to. Sadly, as happens to so many, the drugs ruined that relationship. But they didn't leave screaming at one another. In fact, this guy said something along the lines of, "I love you way too much to watch you kill yourself." And he walked away brokenhearted. And I was able to, hello, Equisize, good to see you. I was able to talk this guy into coming back down to the hospital and talking to me. And, I tried to explain a little bit about just opiate addiction in general. And then opiate addiction, the way that I saw it as it relates to Lydia, because I think if you understand why somebody does the things that they do, because it just seems, sometimes it just seems like either we're the dumbest people on the planet or we're doing this just to be cruel. We're trying to hurt our relatives. We're trying to hurt our loved ones. So to make a long story short, he's at her bedside right now. And I really am praying that they're able to sort of kindle that and get it back. She seemed very, very happy by his presence. And I think that's a beautiful thing. She's still going to be going to rehab for about 120 days. And I'm hoping that she takes that very seriously. 120-day inpatient would be perfect after, the ordeal that she's been through. I got an email today from a crew member who told me that he's been on the boat a while. And if this is you, don't say anything when I start talking, because I'm not going to say your name. I'm not going to say who you are. So don't go, hey, he's talking about me, because you might not like how I end it. I'm sorry. But this individual reaches out to me and we end up talking. When I say talking, you realize that 9 out of 10 times I'm talking about this stuff. I'm not talking about, because there's almost no time. If I talk to people, I would be done. So we've been emailing back and forth, and he mentioned that he too has been to federal prison. And I said, geez, I'm sorry to hear that. Talked a little bit about his criminal history and a little bit about his drug history. And I asked him where he did his time. And he said that he had been at Victorville and he had been in Unit 4, which is bizarre because I was in Unit 4. at Victorville, but we had missed each other. We were not on the yard at the same time. He had heard about the stabbing and all of that. He got there shortly after I did. And I started telling him about where I had been, the prisons I had been to. And I mentioned Lewisburg. And Lewisburg has probably the worst reputation in the Bureau of Prisons, or did. They've changed it. But it used to be the SMU, the Special Management Unit. It is where they threw the misfit toys, the people that couldn't play well with others, or a lot of gang members, and then some people that just, they make the establishment angry. You know, they hit a police officer, or they do something that they consider to be really bad form. And you're locked down 24 hours a day. It's you get out 5 hours a week for recreation, nothing on the weekends, and you're allowed 3 showers a week. It's really a tough place to do time, and the police are notoriously not nice. But this gentleman said, and I was at Lewisburg as well. And I said, no way. Lewisburg, you know how they talk about Alcatraz and they say the big house. Well, Lewisburg, the Alcatraz is the rock. Lewisburg is the big house. That's what the officers don't even wear uniforms like everyone else in the BOP. They carry nightsticks. They wear sweatshirts that say the big house on it. Or they'll have shirts that look like the North Face, but instead of the North Face, it'll say the big house. To make a long story short, I asked him, you know, were you there when it was a special management unit, or were you there when it was an open yard prison? And he said, I was there when it was a special management unit, a SMU is what they call it. I said, what unit were you in the SMU? Once again, he had missed me we were probably there at the same time, but not for a very long time. There was a little bit of an overlap. And I thought, you know, if he was on either unit to the side of me or the unit that I was in, because you're locked down, you scream out the windows and you try to do everything you can to communicate, because it's just terribly depressing. And then when you go out to rec, you're in a cage, like a dog in a kennel, right? Except they put 6 people in each of these kennel cages, which is the exact same size as the cell. They're not very big, but you go outside and you get a little sun. But I thought, because of how they pack us in to these cages, there's a good chance that if he was on either floor, I may have come across this individual. So I said, what unit were you in Lewisburg? And he said, oddly enough, I was also in Unit 4 at Lewisburg. Well, at Victorville, if you're in Unit 4 or you're in Unit 2 or you're in any other unit, you have an A and a B side, right? An A and a B. Or that's at Victorville USP. At Victorville FCI, which I also spent a little time at, you had Unit 4 upstairs or downstairs, right? Because that's how they did it. So instead of having an A and a B side, you had an upstairs and a downstairs. Now, the reason that actually, it was both. You had a 4A 1 and 2 or a 4B 1 and 2. Make a long story short, he said that he was in Unit 4. This came as a shock to me because they don't number units at Lewisburg. It's not how they did it. It's one of the really, really old prisons in the BOP. It was built around the same time as Atlanta and Leavenworth. And it looks like a prison out of a movie. It's in a terrifying old place, the very, very high wall, and it's just terrifying. Shawshank Redemption looking stuff. I said, you were in 4? And he said, yeah, 4B. Well, they do it by alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, but they don't go up 4 floors. So you couldn't be in B4 much more than you could be in 4B. And so I got to talking to him a little bit more, and he made reference to the hallways at Lewisburg, because you could ride a Harley Davidson in those hallways and probably get it into 5th gear. When the paint team starts painting the walls of the prison, by the time they get back to the start, right, a year has gone by. It takes a full year just to paint the hallway, because it goes around the whole prison on the outside. So the yard is on the inside like an island, and this goes around the outside. And he brought up those, he either has seen or read about it, but he certainly knew about it. And I said, yeah, they were ridiculous. He said, I once had to run back to a unit, and it was during a lockdown, and that's where he would have been. And anyway, he said, I swear to you, I ran for like 7 minutes before I even made a turn. And that is very, very similar. And he said, And the same thing happened at Lewisburg. And it didn't. There's no way that it's not built that way. They're not in any way, shape, or form, even remotely alike in any way. And I said, hey, can I ask you a question? And he said, sure. I said, that's an alphabet prison. That's an A, B, C, D, E, F, G prison. It's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 prison. And it never has been. It's been on the alphabet system since the very beginning. The number system didn't come into place until Bill Clinton started building prisons in there. And then it was just a very different kind of a setup. And I said, so there's no way that you've ever been to Lewisburg. Why would you want to tell somebody that you had been to Lewisburg if you hadn't been to Lewisburg? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I can see wanting to tell somebody that you've been to Maui if you haven't been to Maui, or you've been to Paris, right? But I can't see telling somebody that you've been to the punishment prison inside, right? It's like it's prison for prison. It just says that you're stupid. Why would you want someone to believe that? And he said he was sort of trying to bond. He was hoping that by having an experience that was similar, that we would bond and maybe it would be easier to get a hold of me, kind of a thing. So 2 things. Number 1, we're all addicted to drugs, or have been. And that's the bond. We all want to see everybody succeed and get well. That's the bond. If there happens to be other things, great. But you don't need any other bond. You really don't. And I just find that bizarre. And it's we don't think about consequences of our actions. As drug addicts, we don't. I didn't. Nobody does. But when things like that happen, the next time somebody sends an email and says, hey, you know what? I used to live in the state next to yours, or I used to live in the same state as you, or I used to live it, and you start going, I wonder if they do. Or if it's just one of those things that they're saying because they're hoping I'll send an email back. And when I explained that to this individual, he tore into me with about 16 or 17 F-bombs in a row, just telling me what not such a great person that I was. And, it sucks getting caught in a lie. I can understand why he was probably unhappy, but I wasn't cruel to this person at all. I promise you I wasn't. And I was trying to explain to him that, you know what? You get used to people saying bad stuff about you. If you got a YouTube channel, you're going to get good at that real quick, because people love taking shots at people who have YouTube channels. Other creators, people that just don't like the message or whatever, everybody just, they'll do whatever they can to tear you down. But if it's somebody that you're trying to help, like this guy bummed me out, legitimately bummed me out. And I don't think he heard any of it. And I don't know that he's going to be here. Who knows? But the point is, it got me thinking. All of us have to communicate, right? That's the nature of what it means to be human. And here we kind of preach that connection is the opposite of addiction. So it's not enough to just be able to communicate. It is really an essential thing to be able to communicate, right? The ability to talk to people and ask them questions and listen is huge. I don't have a magic potion or some formula that helps people get sober. The people who seem to have been helped by the lifeboat are those who communicate with others on the lifeboat. They're good listeners. I hear people say all the time, I just wouldn't know what to say to this person. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to have the answers. You have to have the questions, right? This is a cliche I use all the time. You don't have to have all the answers. You have to have all the questions. A person calls you up and says, I really feel like getting wasted today. They don't want to be lectured anyway. They don't want to hear, well, you realize how, what a bad thing this would be, and you wouldn't want to blow your... Really, why do you want to get wasted? Tell me why you want to get wasted. And they start talking. Okay, is it, and that's really the way you want to handle it? And I'm not busting your chops, but I'm just asking, is that the way you want to handle this? Do you think there might be a better way? You think there might be something that's more productive? Asking questions of people shows that you're interested. Listening to what the people say in response really shows that you're interested. And sometimes knowing that people are interested in your well-being is enough. Hey, Captain, it isn't just YouTube, it's all aspects of life. Yeah, let me see if I can make this bigger. It's all aspects of life. Trolls are everywhere. They watch, they look for the most mere reason to, why does that always happen to me? To lurch, most often their own imagination, right? There's a lot of truth to that. The trick is to know your own truth and love yourself enough not to care what others think. This is your journey and your truth. You know, Chi-Chi, there is a lot to be said for just being very comfortable with who you are and not paying attention. And it's easy not to. Truthfully, it is. I just don't watch. I don't go and look at any of them. It's not that I don't let them. I just don't look. I mean, I don't care what they're doing. They could be out there setting things on fire. I would never know. So have a field day. Do whatever you do. You know, show your 20 viewers something bad about me. Yeah, I mean, I don't care. But when it happens within the community, it hurts. And I think we all need to just guard ourselves that when we talk to one another, that we try to do it. And you know, I failed today. I had a message I needed to get to somebody this morning, and I didn't do a very good job of it. And the crazy thing is that I thought I was doing a good job of it. But going back and reading what I wrote, I think it was just the timing was bad. On my end, the timing was just kind of bad because it was one of those things that I did at a bad time. But you can always be nicer. You really can. You can always be nicer. And the fact that I was really trying to be nice meant that I knew that it could be misconstrued. So default, it's funny that Chi-Chi is here, but default to the nice. If you're going to make a mistake, be too kind. Seriously. If you're going to make a mistake, listen too much. Those are the kind of mistakes that leave the earth a better place than you found it. Honestly. You sit in this chair or the normal chair and you do the lifeboat. I suppose it would be anybody else doing any other kind of channel or program or whatever where you're trying to help people get sober. If you start going down that road, there are going to be incredible highs when you're able to get somebody to see the light. If you get somebody to believe that they can remain sober, and then they start down that journey, and that brings with it a payout that I don't think the average person will ever feel. I really don't. It's certainly my drug of choice. It's a feeling that is just unbelievable. You feel like maybe you did something to leave the earth a better place than you found it. And that's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing feeling. But it also comes with incredible lows. The vast majority of people that you're going to talk to, statistically speaking, aren't going to be a success. They're going to end up going back to their drug of choice. And when that happens, it is one of the most painful things in the whole world. And you know what? People can say, you know what, Captain, it's not your fault. I know all of that up here. You know, I know all that up there. If somebody drinks 2/5 and ends up in the emergency room in a coma, I know I didn't have a damn thing to do with that. That's not me. I didn't make that decision. I certainly didn't buy the booze, and I didn't encourage it in any way. But you still take it really personally. You still, get that feeling that maybe you did something wrong along the way, and that's why this happened. And to be really honest with you, I spent maybe an hour and 40 minutes talking to this person prior to them making a really bad decision to go into precipitative withdrawal intentionally. So it wasn't like I had a whole lot of time to make mistakes. It was a very short meeting, and that whole hour and 45 minutes was just getting them set up so that they could get into medical assisted treatment, so she could get into medical assisted treatment with the help of her aunt. But nevertheless, you're still going to sit there and think, man, I must have said something really stupid in that hour and 45 minutes. And then there was about 9 hours that I spent staying up and just talking into the computer like I'm doing now. I did a lifeboat live for 9 hours for her and her aunt. We're the only two people there. And to be honest, it was mostly for her aunt. She spent the majority of that time in the fetal position on the ground going through it, vomiting. I would say, every 45 minutes to an hour, they just had to go clean her up. But there wasn't a whole lot of interaction that I could look back on and say, what did I say wrong at what time? But it doesn't matter because you're going to do it anyway. You're absolutely going to do it anyway. And as you start to become somebody's five, if you start to become somebody that you put yourself out there and you say, hey, man, if you feel like using, call me. That's the nature of how we help people get sober, whether it's this program or another program or anything else. It's addicts helping addicts. That's how people get sober. I don't care what program you choose. That is what happens. But when you put yourself out there like that, you run the risk of being that person that talks to somebody for an hour or two, only to find out that that person went and got high anyway. That's a painful thing. It really is. It's a super painful thing. So knowing that, I would plan for it before it happens. For real. What would I do if the person that I was talking to just didn't really get it, or I didn't say the right thing, or they didn't hear the right thing? There's an old cliche that you cannot say the right thing to the wrong person, and that you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. And what they mean by that is, it should be obvious, right? But what they mean is that if somebody is ready to get sober, there's not much that you can say to screw it up. They're ready. They're going to give this thing a try and they're going to go. But if a person has absolutely zero desire at all to get off drugs, then you can be the best speaker in the entire world. You could tell them stories that will tear out the heart and make somebody really understand what you're saying. But it's not going to do a damn bit of good. And I know that there are people who didn't spend a good deal of time in the life who are saying, there's nobody out there that doesn't want to get off of opiates. If you've been getting high on opiates for a month, you don't want to get off opiates. You also can't steer a parked car. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, Johnny. There's a lot of truth to that. So why am I bringing all of this up? I'm bringing all of this up because we are a community. If you had told me that we were ever going to be a community, I think I would have vomited because I just don't like the word. I don't know why, but I've never liked the word. A community of this or a community of that. I don't know. Maybe it's because the people who are always talking about them give me the creeps. But the Lifeboat is a community. It really is. Our default setting has to be a little nicer. And I'm not saying that anybody here is not being nice. So don't email me and say, were you talking about me? Because I'm talking about me. Honestly, I'm talking about me. And certainly my brother, because he could always be a little nicer, especially to his little brother. But seriously, though, I am talking about me. It's painful when somebody says something that they don't think enough of before they say it. And we can do more damage with our mouth than we can do with our fists. And I think it's really easy to lose sight of that. But the amount of damage that you can do to somebody speaking to them is amazing. And we tend to take it for granted. That being said, I'm not sitting here telling you that somebody can say something that's going to make you use. Somebody can say something that can hurt your feelings. If you decide to use over that, that's on you. It is. And if you come back and say, well, this person said that and I went out, well, you were looking for it. You were looking for something that you could say, I needed a good one. I needed an excuse that was going to make me feel good about what I was getting ready to do. And that was it, man. That one was great. Especially if it's like an ex-wife or a wife, a significant other. Those are good ones because they really do hurt. They absolutely do hurt. But no matter how bad something hurts, we always still have to make the bad decision. Whatever the catalyst is that gets the emotion going, we still have to make a bad decision off of it. And that bad decision is on you, and it's on me, and it's on anyone who makes it. I was great for a really long time at blaming whoever was in my life for the reason that I got high. And I'm telling you, I didn't realize this until years later when I was journaling, but I would be looking for the fight. If the fight didn't come, I'd start it. For real. I mean, if your significant other was kind of a neat freak, then you leave a pile of clothes here and you knock a couple of things on the floor. Like, I was that sick a human being because in my head I needed that excuse. I was on 2 days sober. I needed an excuse to go use. It wasn't just good. If all I did was walk out the door and my excuse was I want to use, I had to admit I was weak. And I'm not much for admitting I was weak. So I was always looking for that next excuse. So can you say something that's going to cause somebody to relapse? Not if they didn't want to relapse. Honestly, not if they probably already weren't in relapse. But let's not test that. Know what I mean? Let's not test that. Let's be nicer to one another. In a perfect world, we would be nicer to the whole world. But you know what, people? I can't worry about that. I can't worry about the whole world. But if they wander onto the deck of the lifeboat, I think that we really got to go out of our way to be just ridiculously kind. It is our number one weapon. Love, make no mistake, is our number one weapon. Any excuse, says Equisize. It's true. Any excuse. When my first wife kind of yanked my daughter away from me, and to her credit, she didn't play any games. She said to me, "You're never seeing her again." But that became, and I've said this on the boat a lot, but that became my favorite excuse. That was my absolute number one pet excuse. I carried it around with me. I took good care of it. And I was ready to whip that thing out at a half a second's notice to have a really good excuse to get high. And I would bring it up. I really would. Like the guy would come and deliver the dope, and even before people went their separate ways, or if we were hanging out together to fix it, I would always work it into conversation because it justified in my head exactly what I was doing. It in some way relieved the guilt because damn it, I got a reason to do this. I got a right to do this. They stole my child. ZW, thank you so much. And that is ZW Arizona. That is my final stop on this trip we're making. I'm not moving again. That will be the last of them. I've lived in a lot of places. This is the last one. Arizona. Do I have a milk mustache? I forgot to make, when I'm drinking, I'm always drinking either lemonade or iced tea, powdered drink mix. And I forgot to do, to mix it up. So I just filled this with milk. 4 months, Puff. Well played. I hope you are as proud of yourself as we are of you. And I mean that. That's huge. 4 months. That's a lot of overcoming. That is a lot of days. Which part of Arizona? Well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to take you off the planet. Tucsonish. Tucson or its environs. Right in there. All right. It's so sad, but it is also amazing that all of us, most every person here has some sort of hurt, pain that made us what we became. Chi-Chi, it is such a stone cold fact. And this is something that I think certainly society has no clue on. That doesn't and will never define us. No, you're right. That's beautiful. We are warriors. The fact that you can get off of the substance is what really, if the substance is going to define you, and it shouldn't, it really shouldn't. But if it's going to define you in any way, let it be the fact that you beat it. You know what I mean? Stick your chest out a little bit, jut that chin out a little. There's nothing wrong with pride if that pride is for overcoming something like that. Something that steals people's souls. There's absolute legitimate pride in someone overcoming an addiction. But your first comment makes a really good point, Chi-Chi, because I have yet to come across the addict that didn't have something. Drugs are a symptom. And I know that this is such a hard concept for some people to get. And you know how I know that? Because I was the most thick-headed person in the world when it came to this concept. I spent more than a decade telling every doctor I met that I just like getting high, and it got out of control. And they would say to me, no, there's something that you're trying to cover for. Johnny told me that Tommy had an extra life vest. I hopped on board. All right. There you go. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I love this boat too, brother. I assume, brother. I always assume the wrong thing too. Every time I do that, I do it wrong. It's embarrassing, really. And yeah, it really is. So I hope I said that one right. But drugs are the symptom. They're not the problem. Really a hard thing to wrap your brain around. But drugs aren't the problem. They're the symptom. And you say, well, I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense to me, Tommy. Have you ever met somebody that stopped doing heroin and started gambling? And then they got off gambling and they went to the next thing, sex addiction, whatever it is. If you don't come to figure out what it is that is making you want to use, then when you eliminate the symptom, a new symptom is going to come up. Then the new symptom could be anything, because all you are doing is using dopamine as a way to cope. Your brain releasing dopamine is how you get over whatever it is that is bothering you. And that is absolutely the truth. So, whether you become an extreme athlete to get dopamine, or whether you gamble because every time you hit that stupid button, it's giving you a shot of it, or whether you get addicted to this thing and it's never out of your hand and you just walk around doing this one and walk into poles or fountains in the mall. We've all seen those videos. I was telling somebody today, someone that I've done some work for with watch and clock repairs. I saw a video that somebody had posted, and it was kind of a juxtaposition between two videos. And one showed somebody in full-blown withdrawal off of opiates. And the person was basically pleading with a relative to just give them money so that they could go and score. And if you've ever seen that, it's an awful, awful show. It really is. I mean, not necessarily the one I'm talking about, but in real life. But this person was begging for just one fix. Just give me the money. And after I do this one, I promise you I'm going to. But the volume gets turned down on it. And then right next to it, they show you an identical video. The participant is a little younger, looks maybe like maybe 15 or 16, but the same pleading. And the volume is down. And when they bring the volume up on the second video, it's a kid screaming to get this back. But if you watch the video for any length of time, you would have absolutely thought that they were the exact same thing. And I bring that up because it is so easy to jump from one to the other, especially if you're not treating the malady. If all you're doing is treating the symptom, it's like anything else. You know what I mean? If you have skin cancer and you can see a thing, you can cut that off. But if you don't get in there and irradiate it and do everything else, it's still going to come and get you. Noise opera. Again, my friend, thank you. I really appreciate you, bud. I do. I love noise opera. I really do. It's a cat that he went from the negative to the positive so fast that it was amazing. That I thank God for that. What did they call it at the time? Atmospheric river. That, I don't know what happened, but when all of that water came down in Canada, it changed him. It really did. At the beginning of that atmospheric storm, he was a different human being. And when that thing was done, it just had such a beautiful effect on him. He's just become such a great, great person. I love it. I'm sorry. My eyes are just getting worse by the day. They really are. And that is just, I mean, to be honest, everything's getting worse by the day, but you notice the eyes more, I think, than a lot of other things. You really do. You got to love yourself enough to fight for yourself. Chi-Chi, there's a lot of truth to that. Although when I first quit, I didn't love myself enough to fight for myself. But I loved the people around me so much that I was willing to give it a try. I came to the conclusion that I was never going to be able to stay sober or get sober for me because I was just defective. But the person that was working with me just convinced me that if that's the case, there are people worth getting sober for. And I thought of my daughter, and I thought of Papa Scoville and Johnny and Sister Scoville and the whole crew, and obviously, Cedar and Calhoun were huge in terms of my motivation. And the really unusual thing is that once I started to get some sobriety under my belt, I found out that I could love myself. And then I found out the thing that really changed me more than anything else was coming to that conclusion that I could be happy without chemicals. Sounds pretty silly, doesn't it? Like, it shouldn't have been that tough a concept, but it was. I mean, it was so foreign to me. I didn't believe there was a chance that I could have a 24-hour period of time where I felt happy without using a chemical to screw with my dopamine or to screw with whatever other brain chemical I had going, serotonin, anything. It really was that was a moment when I came to realize that I could be happier without drugs than I ever was with drugs. But the key to that for me, and everything I say is me, right? You understand that? The key to everything, this is me. I can tell you my story. I can't do a whole lot else. But the key to that for me was finding the things in life that brought me joy and multiplying them, right? If spending, an hour a week talking to my daughter really truthfully made me happy, then talking to my daughter an hour a day did wonderful things for my sobriety. And if getting outside and spending time outside, was good for me, then twice as much of it was even more good for me. And if helping people, or if trying to help people, spending time on the lifeboat and doing what I'm doing here, all of these things became ways to do the same thing, to flip that receptor that releases dopamine. And I heard somebody get kind of, almost snippy about this subject. They were talking to a chili head and saying, you're not really all that sober, right? You're just using capsaicin as a way to change, your outlook on life versus drugs, but it's the same thing. And to that individual, if they ever come across this, you're an idiot. With all due respect, you're an idiot. And I'll tell you why. Those chemicals are in our brain for a reason. They're in our brain for a reason. The issue is that if you can control if they're getting released naturally, then that's how we're designed, right? Being happy is a chemical reaction. It's also a choice, that it is a chemical reaction. This is something I think that goes lost on a lot of people. Every one of your emotions is a chemical reaction. Oh, yeah. So you can choose to be happy. You can. I faked it until I made it, right? That's the term that people use. I prefer live as if, but I lived as if I was happy before I was happy. And then I learned things. I learned that if you smile, spend about 6 minutes with a big poo-eating grin on your face and watch if it doesn't change your entire physiology. If it doesn't change up here, your physiology will get into your head. And the next thing you know, you just start feeling happy. And do you know why that is? Because we're designed in such a way that every small thing that happens sends a message to another part of our body. And our brain knows that if you're smiling really big, it's never because you're bummed out, right? Who goes, oh, I got the worst news today. Oh, I got fired. Yeah. And I think my daughter might be pregnant. Yeah, things are good. That doesn't happen. So you can almost play with the system a little bit with your physiology. You ever see somebody that's really, really depressed? If I showed you 2 pictures of people and one of them was like this and the other, shoulders rolled back, was sitting up, and I said to you, which one of these 2 is depressed? Or if they were in action and one is sitting there and going, yeah, this afternoon we're all going to go outside and play golf, but it'll probably just rain anyhow, doing the Eeyore thing. And the other dude's like, this afternoon we're going to be doing whatever it is, right? The person who seems animated, the person who might be raising their voice a little bit, the person that looks happy, probably is. Or they're trying to talk themselves into it. And ain't nothing wrong with talking yourself into happy. That beats the crap out of talking yourself into anything else. M. Hunt, You are to go to the chalkboard and write, I will not be late for the lifeboat. How many times you figure, people? 20, 30? No, I'm sure you had a really good reason, M. Hunt. I'm just busting your chops. I'm a big fan of M. Hunt, in spite of the fact that he got the hair I was supposed to get. Yeah. In fact, M. Hunt has enough hair basically for everybody on the lifeboat. A really good head of hair and a ton of it. 200 times, Ladybug says. Yeah, that's steep, but it may be legit. Start writing. 1 million times. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read some comments. I haven't really communicated with anyone on the boat in a long time, so I'm trying to spend a little time with people. So I had been talking about switching and doing one show a day and alternating between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. This will not be a permanent thing. This will be something that I'm modifying while I'm taking care of the process of relocating myself from Nevada to Arizona, because there is a unbelievable amount of stuff involved in that procedure. Now, that said, I will be doing members stuff because I started a new series for members, and where I talk about sort of nuts and bolts of life issues, things that I talked about while I was on stage, and I will be doing those every week. And also Heather's going to be doing what she does, so it's not going to be like we're really cutting it in half. It's just that I'm going to be doing guaranteed one show a day, and it may be in the morning, it may be at night. I'm not sure how people want us to go. So if there is a time that you think you would, because it's going to be a flip-flop. So Monday I would do the morning show. Tuesday I would do the night show. Wednesday I would do the morning show, that kind of thing. If you have suggestions about what you think I ought to be doing as the host of the lifeboat, please send them to me. sober@myyahoo.com. sober@myyahoo.com. Tell me what you think. You can send it to any one of the other email addresses as well. Doesn't much matter. Just do get, if you have something that you want to say, please do it. Talk, not trust, dang, autocorrect. Oh, trust. Talk, not trust, dang, autocorrect. Heather is great, Equisize. I completely agree with you 100%. Hello, full of hope. Good to see you. I absolutely believe wholeheartedly that Heather is fantastic, and I appreciate the amount of effort that she puts in for us. She is there whenever. Captain, going to be honest, if the sun shines, I won't be around. I understand that. I completely understand that, Chi-Chi, and you're not hurting my feelings. I'm very happy that you're in a good place, and I mean that. But we're always here, so you come by and just let us know that you're always doing all right, because it means a lot to us. I take a lot of I really take I take solace knowing that you're doing well enough that you're out doing your thing and not feeling like you need it. Honestly, I think it's great that you stop by and tell us you're doing well, though. I love that. And I would say that to anybody. If you're a crew member of the boat and you don't feel like you need to be here every day, don't be. But do stop by and let us know you're all right, because it means a lot to everybody. Okay, you hear this? That was supposed to say, I don't talk to many people when I am down because I don't want to bum other people out or whine. All right. I hate to do this to you, Zen, but I have to. You have given me no choice. No, I'll tell you why I put that up there, because this is such a common misconception in sobriety. This is. So with all due respect, this is not the right approach, and I'll tell you why. When you start to get this give and take network with a 5, where somebody starts feeling bad and you reach out and that person calls you and you say, by the end of the call, man, I feel fantastic. You're doing more for the person you called than they're doing for you. I promise you. Now, where does that change? When that changes is when you call the same person every single day for 4 weeks, and you're not talking about stuff that has to do with sobriety. You're pissing and moaning. You're talking about the same thing, the same issue, right? If it becomes the idea behind the 5 is that you discuss things that are threatening your sobriety. Do you know what Janet said? That's not threatening your sobriety. Seriously, that's nitpicking stuff. If it becomes a situation where you're, talking about people as opposed to talking about issues or talking about things, that's not where you want to be. But if you're calling and just saying, and I'll tell you something else, you don't have to tell everybody exactly what's going on in your life. I can't tell you the number of times that people have called and said, or emailed and just said, I'm in a really bad place. I feel like using. Do you want to talk about it? All I'm going to tell you is that it has to do with relationships. Fine. It's not going to change what we talk about. I'm still going to ask, what's your best approach? What have you done to try to fix it? I mean, the ants crawling all over your brain. What have you done to try to fix it? Have you gotten out of the room, or have you been sitting on the couch for 5 hours? Have you eaten today? Did you eat breakfast and lunch? You didn't. How was last night's sleep? And you start to have a real dialogue. Are you journaling? You're not. What do you mean you're not journaling? If you want to stay sober, you journal. Like, that's just nuts and bolts stuff. And it really is nuts and bolts stuff. As I said, drugs are a symptom, right? You've heard me say that because I say it all the time. So drugs are a symptom. And how do you find out what the problem is? Well, I have a big secret for you. I never tell anybody what their problem is. Do you know why? Because I don't have any idea. For real. That's above my pay grade. If I were that smart, people, I would be making money hand over fist. Seriously, I would be out helping every single person who needed help in anything, charging money and then paying for the entire world to have Narcan and to have medical assisted treatment, because I'd be rolling in money. I have found that the way you figure out what's wrong with you is by figuring out what's wrong with you. Journaling is huge. Journaling is huge. You ever have a great thought? Man, I had the best idea in the entire world for a business, or I thought of the perfect gift to get so-and-so for her birthday, or so-and-so for Christmas. And then I woke up and I went, crap, what was that? It was such a good idea. Has that ever happened to you? It happens to me recently. There was a time in my life where that was not such an issue. I had a pretty good memory at one time in my life. But these days, the only thing that sticks around in my memory is things that are very, very emotional. And that happens to most everybody. You know what I mean? You will tend to remember things that are anchored with emotion more than anything else. And this was by design. You walk out on the street and a car almost hits you and you jump back and you go, holy hell. And you can remember that like it was yesterday. Years later, you remember it because your brain is thinking, we need to hammer this one home. Don't let him forget this. Or this idiot's going to step off a curb in front of a car. Right? Or you're eating perfect. Another really great example. I remember the first time, I think maybe everyone is lost in hurt. Everyone is lost in hurt exercise. No question. But identifying exactly what that hurt stems from is a huge thing. It really is. It is one of those things that allows us to make progress toward the future. Yeah, but everyone is, Equus. I don't think anybody, even those of us who don't have a problem with drugs, the difference between those of us with drug problems, either still using or in the process of getting sober, the difference between us and the normal people or the people that are not like us, it's not that they don't have problems. It's that they don't run to a substance to deal with their problems. Everybody on this planet has memories that are tied really strongly to something that is not good. And those memories haunt people. And very often we drink or we drug to try to make the feelings that those memories bring up go away. And you can say, I don't have anything in my past that does that. See, I promise you, there's no thoughts at all. I never have thoughts like that. I said the same thing. I really did. I said the same thing. And then one day while I was journaling, I went, holy crap, this is it. Noise opera. Thank you, my friend. But don't we have a limit on how many times you're allowed to do that in a day? I think you might have hit the limit. Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate you, man. I really, really do. You're a generous man, and I appreciate you. Thank you. But yeah, that's one of those, I remember journaling and truthfully thinking to myself, this is one of those situations where I very well may have just figured out what in hell is wrong with me. All right, sorry. So here's what it comes down to. I remembered back to a time in my life where I was in school, and I remember the first time that I really felt like I was broken, like I was stupid and everybody else wasn't. You know, I had this learning disability thing that just, it scared the hell out of me, and it made me feel dumb. And it went on for a long time. It truthfully did it. It went on for a really, really long time. And it only stopped the first time I got high. But I would have sworn on a stack of Bibles, and I probably could have passed a lie detector test, that I didn't have one of those in my past. I didn't. That I just tried weed and I loved it. But as I started peeling that onion, I would look at different times in my life when all of a sudden, there was a period in my life where I went for a long time really fighting to try to stay sober. And I was falling down and getting back up, but I had it in my mind to really try. And I started, journaling and going back through, and I thought, what caused me to jump the rails that time? What caused me to just go, screw this, I'm done? And as I started peeling that onion and I started journaling, the exact same feeling. The exact same feeling. It ended up being a joke that somebody had made about something that I had written, and then it looked like something that a 4-year-old had written. And the person didn't realize, the person thought I was really, really intelligent, but I didn't. So he said to me, good God, he goes, my kid does stuff with crayons that looks better than that. And he was just being funny. He wasn't being cruel, but it threw me into a tailspin like you wouldn't believe, because that was my button. And it was a button until I realized that it was a button. Once I realized that that's what it was, there's a part of me that is not normal in terms of learning and in terms of communicating. It's damaged, is what it is. But the other parts have compensated for that. I'm not stupid. I'm definitely not stupid. But for a long time, I thought I was, and yeah, we're all damaged in one way or another. We all have something that we're a little bit broken. I truthfully believe that can be fixed in almost every person. And I don't mean fixed. I mean fixed. But if you're not putting a pen to paper or typing, when I say that, I'm obviously referring to any kind of journaling. Even if you're speaking it in, you got a recorder and you're just talking. But the process of getting the things up here, out of here, and put onto a piece of paper does wonders, because it engages all parts of the brain. You're not leaving something that might have been that key up here to do this one and create automatic negative thoughts. Mr. Ray, thank you so much. Salted apricot fund. Wait a second. These things are salted? I didn't know these things were salted. Then Chi-Chi, then we get it, right? And you know how great it is, Chi-Chi, when someone says, I get it? It's exactly the same thing. This is why group therapy works. This is why group therapy works. When somebody goes, that's exactly to hear somebody else articulate something that you suffer with makes you feel like you're not alone in the world. And I got news for you. I don't care what it is that you think is so unique to you. The internet has proven to us that it doesn't matter what you're into in life. There's a group of people who are also into it. For real. I don't care how weird or how twisted it sounds. You know, what do you do for fun? I like to be slapped in the face with a fish while smoking a cigar that has to be Cuban and wearing a miniskirt. There's going to be a website for about 2,000 people who think the exact same thing. The internet is an echo chamber that way. But if you're using it for something good, yeah, was that Mr. Ray Ray? That was the warning label? Yeah, I wasn't told there was salt on this. When Johnny told me it was really, really brutal, but he didn't say anything about salt. Equisize, I am so happy to see you on deck of the lifeboat. I really am. I'm glad that you're here. You know what, Equus? I get that. I had to go back for the comment, but and if you hadn't seen it, she had a comment that said, "People have always frightened me, but they don't when I'm high." Hold on one second. I'm sorry to hear that, Full of Hope. I really am. That's awful. But and I wish that I could give you some kind of advice, but it's that just sucks. And I just hope that thing works out the way that it's supposed to, and that you are supported through the whole process. I know that the boat will be here for you. I understand, Equus. I really understand what you said because I hear it from so many other people. It was definitely not my driving force. It is definitely not my driving force. As a public speaker, I got very comfortable with people of any kind and in any situation. But more people list what you just said than anything else. I can't stand being around people. They make me nervous, or I just don't like them, or whatever. But it is the ability to no longer feel odd in your own skin when around a group of people. That is the number one thing in my human experience that drives people to use. You understand? And I mean that. That is what I hear the most. When people reach out to me, I get that more than I get anything else at all. Hey, Monk, good to see you. Charles, I don't know that I said hello to you too. Charles McClellan, good to see you. And of course, Charlie Murphy, it's always good to see you. Awakened by the Looking Glass, glad you're here. Brandon Calloway, thank you so much for your work yesterday, brother. M. Hunt, Zenwin. Let's see, did I miss anybody? Noise Opera, my brother Johnny. No, I think I pretty much hit everybody. If I did not say hello to you, then I apologize. I'm not trying to skip anybody or shine anybody or anything like that. I disappear for that same reason. I hear it all the time, people. I hear it all the time. Full of Hope says, I love everyone too much. I'm going to have to ponder that concept to think of whether or not I believe it's possible to love too much. Maybe it is. Maybe that, in fact, it probably is. Because I was going to say you can't love too much, but that's not true. That's not true at all. You can absolutely love too much. Conky Donks, good to see you. Sorry, peeps. I was looking for a comment that I thought I saw, but I'm glad that you were here, Chi-Chi. I really am. I really, really am. Too much love is called stalking. Mr. Ray, you're funny. Too much love is called stalking. They used to have a commercial about that, didn't they? It said, what was that ad campaign for that stupid company? I'm not gonna do this here because I'll misquote it and it'll sound stupid. You're in Houston, Texas, John, huh? Well, my brother Johnny and I used to spend, like, this is Friday night. We would have been on Richmond or on Westheimer. Yep. I used to live in Houston, Texas. Spent a lot of time down on Westheimer and Richmond. You know what, peeps? Sometimes it is what it is. All right, people. Send me an email, would you please, and tell me if you prefer the nights, the mornings, anything like that. Let me know. I'd kind of like to get a little bit of feedback. Good night, Chi-Chi. Thank you so much for stopping in. It is the top of the hour time. Thank you for stopping in, Chi-Chi. It was lovely seeing you again. It really was. Glad that you're here. So, yeah, people reach out to me and tell me reach out to me and weigh in on the mornings versus evenings, and if we go every other day, is it better that we do certain nights or certain days at night or certain days during the day or whatever you think? I would really love to hear from people, and anytime we do hear from people, then we do what everybody wants done. If I don't hear from you, I'll have to make a decision on my own, and then I hope that everybody is cool with the decision that I make. I would much rather have you all decide. You've decided everything on the boat up to this point, and it's worked out pretty well. So at least I think it has. What do I know? But I think it does. So look at that. Peace and love to all, and to a better tomorrow. Remember to love yourself and to hug someone if you can. If you cannot, hug yourself. That's beautiful, Charles. I kid you not. That is beautiful. And I'm really glad that you said it. So, Charles, good night. Conky Dong, Zenwen, Monk, John, Karen, Full of Hope, Awakened by the Looking Glass, Chi-Chi, Charlie Murphy, to everybody. Have a good night, people. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville of the Lifeboat, and that is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. God bless.